Hi, my name is Jacob Burgess. I'm the Community Manager and Director of Operations for Ysbryd Games, the publisher to this game, Nirvana, by Sukeban Games. With me to talk about the characters of Nirvana are Fernando and Chris from Sukeban. Say hello, gentlemen. Even though, wait, hold on. We had this problem last time. Chris, please go first.
Oh yeah! Sorry, I just had to do a macho man noise.
I get
now
that.
you brought up wrestling.
I did
before
outside,
hitting recording.
Before hitting recording, I did bring up wrestling. So that's Macho Man Randy Chrissy. Fernando,
that's my name.
It is now. Fernando, would you like to say hi to our viewership?
Hello, everyone.
Fantastic. So in case you missed it, on one of the previous days of LudoNarraCon, we had a wonderful interview where we talked about some of the past of Sukeban Games, some of the things that Fernando and Chris have gone through. We talked about it was a wide ranging interview, and I honestly don't know how LudoNarraCon works, so maybe you missed it, and if you missed it, I'm very sorry. We'll see what we can do about getting a copy of that up on either... Does Sukeban have a YouTube page?
Where we post the trailers, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
That's something.
Okay. Well, Ysbryd also does that. So we'll get it up somewhere, and then we'll tell you about it. You should follow both Ysbryd Games at Ysbryd Games on Twitter and Sukeban Games at Sukeban Games on Twitter, and join both of our Discords. Thank you very much. Yes, so we're going to be talking about some of the characters today and kind of get some of the process and some of the behind-the-scenes thoughts behind the characters of Nirvana. Just so that folks know, we've recorded a bunch of interviews at once. This is the last one that we're doing, and we're all kind of punchy. So strap in for that. It's going to be a good time. So tell me about the characters for... Nirvana, as far as it's not just like tell me about the characters and then start talking, but it's what we talked about in the first interview, how Sam, the protagonist for Nirvana, and Jill, the protagonist for the first hit game, Nirvana, are almost complete polar opposites as far as character design goes, personality. They are almost completely opposite to each other. Were there any other design decisions going into making Sam? And could you tell us a little bit about Sam?
Do you have anything to say first?
No, I was just waiting for you to say something.
Well, perfect. So
I'm limited to you.
We already mentioned that Sam was made as the opposite of Jill, both in design, as many people have noticed immediately the first time. Man, that was a trip when we first revealed Sam's design. Everyone was like, "Oh no, Sukeban Games is going the raunchy route." I'm like, "Did you play the first game?"
Yeah.
Anyways,
I know where they come from, but yeah.
I mean,
there was a lot going on because when Sam's first design was first revealed, we had less of a grasp on who she was. Mm-hmm. We just had the general idea that we wanted to make her the opposite of Jill, but comparing the art pieces that came of Sam when the first game was first revealed and the ones that we have now in development, concerns going out after a bit, because we already have a better idea of who she is, mm-hmm. and as a result, we have a better grasp on how we want to present her as
she's a cool mom. She's a cool mom. That's pretty much it. She's the coolest mom that ever lived in video games.
Nice.
So now we actually know that, instead of just having the vague idea of Busty Bartender. that we had when we were starting.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So what else? I mean,
So,
she's a mom. What else can you tell us about her?
Oh,
well,
dude. Can we actually talk about that? Holy shit. I've been
I mean,
dying to talk about STEM.
Anything that's been revealed in the
if you
Parka and Olivia demos, I believe, and maybe a little hint at something else.
in the Libya, there was talks of how she was in her past too. So go ahead, talk.
Oh boy. It's, well, it's not spoilers. I'm just talking about how awesome she is. Alrighty. Okay, so Sam, holy crap, man. Sam, Sam was pretty tricky to get right because we had a rough idea of what we wanted. We wanted to do, the opposite to Jill and all that jazz we mentioned in the previous interview.
Mhm.
But it's like, it's a funny story, right? So last year there were the famous blackouts in Venezuela, where pretty much all the country ran out of energy.
Yep.
For political reasons. And well, let's say I ended up in the in the darkness a lot, the darkness of my own home. And one day there was like just so dark everywhere, super silent. I was super bored. I was alone. I was like, well, I have a bunch of ideas I should write. So I just, grabbed my laptop and began writing pretty much Sam's childhood alongside Leon's, which is her boyfriend, and and I just went on wild and pretty much wrote a Bible of her life, right? And that's pretty much where I finally managed to have a firm idea of what we truly wanted to to present with her. So the things I can say about Sam, it's that she is let's say she had a rough childhood, right? She came from a broken home, and she grew up with very questionable people around. Since when this island was being built, Saint Alicia, it was it was hit by a pretty deep economic depression,
St. Lucia is the
and
setting
a
for
lot
the
of
game, for
blue
those
collar
who don't know.
workers and a lot of blue collar workers were affected by this, and she was in that in that economic class, and this forced pretty heavily her personality, and and this is reflected a lot in how she is in Nirvana, where she's all about appreciating the things she has because she grew up with virtually nothing, and had such a rocky ass life around all types of motorbike gangs, and that kind of thing. She's actually into motorcycles. She enjoys riding motorcycles because it's the only thing that makes her mind clear. It's the only thing that allows her to be herself. Whenever she's feeling anxious, she just grabs her motorbike and starts riding around the island, just trying to collect her thoughts. That's the energy of Sam. She's a woman, a mother, but also a rebel who grew up in a rough town that was hit so hard by the economic depression, and all the things that come with this. And yeah, in rough terms, that's how I can describe Sam. She's a lion, a lioness. She's the coolest mother ever, right? That's really all that's it to it.
To put another angle, this also plays into how she's the opposite of Jill, because Jill is a character that looks cool, but in practice is a mess of a human being and the most uncool person ever.
A nerd. She's a nerd.
Sam is the opposite. she doesn't particularly look cool in the same way Jill does, but she acts cooler than Jill by a long shot.
Cool.
It's the Chat Sam and the Virgin Jill.
That's a
Love
great
you,
quote.
Jill. Don't give me shit. I love you to bits.
That's
It's a loser.
I can hear the love for your characters in your voices, and that's amazing. That's what you want out of a
So
creator.
yeah, it was a bit complicated to explain what makes Sam so cool because I still have so much, just thinking about her. Just it's exciting because I want people to get to meet Sam in the same way I do.
Yeah.
To I don't know. It just makes me a mess because we have so much cool stuff we want to show but we can't yet.
I get
And
it,
it
man.
fucked me up super good, man. It's super bad. I mean,
I know. In some of the other stuff, like with any writing project I work on or anything like that, it's especially when you're proud of it. You know you've done something good. All you want to do is be like, "Look at the thing! Look at this thing!" But with
yeah, dude.
yeah, I
When
totally
it
get
was
it.
alone in that room, in that darkness, just writing about the lives of the people in Nirvana, it was like, oh man, I just want people to read this already. It also didn't help that I was on a binge of reading books about the Japanese underworld, like
Hmm.
stuff like Speed Tribes. I freaking love that book.
Damn.
A friend lent that to me, and there's so many stories in there that I'm like, oh man, this is the energy of Sam's younger years, earlier years. Uh, 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 you know, I
Everything
just want to
plays with
show
with
it.
a slam dunk endings on loop as a soundtrack.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because when I was explaining all of this to Fernando, all we thought was, oh man, the Slam Dunk soundtrack really will fit with with all of this.
You talking about Slime
It will
Dunk the
be
anime?
so good.
Yes.
Yeah, the Slam Dunk anime.
Anime, nice, awesome. So, were there any other
Such a good show.
inspirations? Damn right. I don't even like sports, but I'll watch sports anime forever. Like I one of the ones that I really got into, and I don't like boxing, but Hajime no Ippo, which is the but like
Yes.
yes, one of my absolute favorite animes ever. Like when they get that engine sound and he starts in on like the Dempsey roll and everything. Like it's just everything about it. It's absolutely fantastic, and to be able to distill an anime that you like so much into, or at least have that same energy be put into a character that you obviously care about so much. Um, that it's just it's really cool. It's awesome to hear just from the other end. It makes me excited to hear you talk about it.
But it's also kind of complicated because I'm so excited. I'm like, oh man, I get to talk about Sam. But once I was talking about it, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot how to speak English. Oh no. That's what excitement does.
Yeah.
My lack of
You were
words to
able.
describe just how cool she is should be a testament of how cool she is.
Nice. That's awesome.
Which actually ties to another thing. Jill was made from a very, I want to say, personal place.
Okay.
I've had a lot of family and friends that have played the game, and the first thing they say is, "So Jill is you, huh?"
Hmm.
That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
A big obstacle early on with Sam was that we were purposefully not going that route.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to make her as out of her comfort zone as possible, in a sense.
Okay.
That made it a bit harder to. We knew how to write her. For example, actually, the two demos that we made reflect this. When the Parka demo was made, I was still struggling to get a feel for how Sam was.
Okay.
But by the time the Olivia demo came to be, I already had more of a feel of who she was,
Okay.
but now I have an even bigger feeling for who she is. So it's not something that many people are gonna notice unless you come through the text, but it's gonna show up definitely.
That's awesome. All right, so let's move on. Unless there's anything else that you really want to get out there about Sam.
Dude.
So how about
Dude.
all right. So I think it probably would be wisest if we moved on to another character, or else this entire thing is just going to be about Sam.
I could ramble about her all day, man. But all I can say, like, just to
Let's be excited.
cap
Yeah.
this off. It's more like, I mean, we had problems trying to, you know, get a feel for her character early on, like Fernando was mentioning. But as soon as we came up with the entire timeline of her life, it was like, yeah, now I know her, right? It was like trying to write about stranger. And with Jill was easier because she's kind of like a mismatch of of different aspects of ourselves and people we know. But Sam was completely nothing like anyone we've ever met.
That's cool.
And that makes it so interesting, you know, in the sense that we created this character not from scratch, because obviously our characters are very, very, very linked to our real life, but like this time it's not a Frankenstein of people we know, it's a Frankenstein of life itself, so to speak. Right?
Because then you get to you don't have an idea of this kind of person that you're going to meet. You're meeting them for the very first time. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We treat our characters like they are real, and we are just telling the stories. You know, we are merely showing everyone else what they go through in a very, very tiny little, you know, snapshot of their lives. That's all we do. And the writing reflects this. So that's how the dialogue is made. We just make two characters speak, and that's that. We're just documenting this. That's all we do.
Yep, and it absolutely shows. That's like in for me personally, that's how I write too. Fully realize a character and then put them into situations, and then you just kind of watch them go. That's
right.
Fantastic.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's move on to some of the characters that, you know, if people are familiar with Nirvana, they're going to know Sam. Sam's absolutely everywhere. You're very passionate and very vocal about Sam. Sam is in fact the protagonist. But how about some of the characters that we don't know that well? For example, you know what? Let's move on to Sam's, you said, boyfriend, Leon. Tell us about
Chris.
him.
He's another one that makes me super excited. Let's see if I can collect my thoughts better this time. He comes roughly from the same background of Sam. You know, he grew up in the same environment. He come from broken families, broken homes, and you know, sometimes broken people just meet each other and make something out of it, right? That's pretty much how they met each other. They met at very special circumstances during their high school years. They're actually dropouts. They neither really finished high school, and all they had were each other. It's like one of those situations where you have like this network of people, but you don't really feel like they are there.
Yeah.
And you are only like, oh man, she really is all I have. And that's how I could describe that relationship of them. And Leon, he and the fact they met each other was because they were heading towards the same direction. They were, you know, they were early on. They were part of these gangs made of, you know, teenagers who are just doing shitty teenager things.
Yep. Like teenagers do.
Yeah, just juvenile bands. Um, there is a lot of spoilers there, so I'm not going to go to specifics. Let's just say that they have a very rough childhood growing up among this this gang environment.
Yeah.
So yeah, so in the current events of Nirvana, Leon is more like far gone into that side. Sam was able to make something out of her life. She was able to rise in the social ranks, so to speak, right? So she has a stable job. She's pretty popular around the city. She's she made something out of her situation. Meanwhile, Leon is kind of stuck in that world they entered when they were young, and that city part of the city. We already revealed that he's part of a mafia type syndicate. That has very strict rules. Anyone who has seen, the classic mafia movies knows what I'm talking about. Anything with like Takeshi Kitano or even The Godfather or whatever, they already know the gist. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of loyalty involved. Respect and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, he's fully involved in this world, and this naturally creates this gap between him and Sam, where they don't seem to to fully conciliate with each other. uh there's always this conflict, like, man, just what the fuck are you doing? Why are you bringing your issues to my home? It's not fair. It's that kind of situation. It's very tense. And I can easily say that the relationship is in the rocks. That's pretty much the premise of this game. It's about this woman who's trying to balance her life with someone who's clearly not in the same wavelength anymore. Yeah, it always loops back to Sam, because obviously she's the main character, but that's what Leon is in her life. He's the last, let's say, the last link to a past she wants to leave behind, because she now has a family to take care of that she cares a lot about. There is nothing in the world that could make her that she basically wants her son to grow up in a safe environment. That doesn't have the shit she had growing up. She doesn't want him to take Leon as an example of what he could do with his life. It's a role model. That's the word. And so there's a lot of conflict going on, and Leon it represents that part in her life. He's the embodiment of a past she doesn't want to see anymore. So the game, and well, this naturally develops as the players see more of the story and all that stuff. This is the very basics of what we want to do. See that I mentioned a bunch of complex details about this, but this is like only the peak of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. This is just such a little tiny speck of what you can expect out of this story. That's just the main conflict, but the rest, man, it's just another level. This game is good. This is a good video game.
That level of confidence is very exciting.
Speaking of that, not that he mentioned their son. I think that we can put forward about him because it's early on, that whole thing. The one thing that we can talk about him is that the same way we want to avoid the trappings of this sort of story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because as we've seen in the last God knows how many already years, with the dadification of games where everyone's a dad now,
Yeah.
we're trying to avoid the usual trappings of that. For example, Sam is a mom, and her plot involves being a mom, but her character is not that she's a mom, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That's not her whole character. We're not making her whole story about being a mom.
Yeah.
She has her life. It just so happens that she has a son, and that son is a big part of her life.
Yep.
But it's not everything about her. The same way, we are trying to make sure that her son is not just the son. She's not just an artifact that the plot uses
He's not a MacGuffin, is what he wants to say.
Exactly. He's not just the kid that's there and that they have to keep pure. The kid is a little shit.
Yep.
We actually
want to
have a
make
bunch
sure-
of things involving him, like snippets of his life. Just so players can, laugh at the absolutely hilarious shit we write about him.
That's cool.
Oh
Exactly.
man, that kid is a treasure.
So we want the players to be attached to him, not because he's the kid, not because the plot tells you should like him because he's your son,
Yeah.
but rather because you like him.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You like this
Yeah.
dude.
It's fucking rad.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do. We want to avoid the trappings that the last decade of games have fallen into with dads in games. We are not just going to make everything like that, but with a mom. We want to make sure we make a difference. We don't want to fall into the trapping of doing the thing ironically is still doing it.
Right. Yeah, because that's not great. That's cool. That's really awesome. So that's kind of Sam and Leon in the tip of the iceberg there. One of the other characters that's been introduced that I don't think a lot of people know about would be Wakana.
Yes, that one. What can we say about her?
one.
Oh yes, that one.
No. It's because I'm really excited about her story, but it's one I'd rather actually keep under wraps
That
for
is
now.
fair. That is absolutely fair. Now, this is a cyberpunk future. So you have a lot of different, cyborgs and cat boomers and a whole bunch of different things. Are Leon or Wakana or any of these characters altered? Can you speak to that at all?
Nice Lilim, actually.
I'm sorry?
Lilim. She's
Lilim.
not human.
Nice. Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes.
Yes,
I'm trying to think about non-human. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's not human. That's the most I can say right now.
That is
actually.
fair, and I respect your
In
restraint.
the case of Sam and Leon, they just had to do what they had to do in order to survive in a rougher environment.
Yes.
So naturally, they might have augmentations that will allow them to kick some ass in dicey situations.
Nice. Well, if you don't want to talk about Wakana, let's move on to Iris.
Us.
Oh,
Yes.
oh boy, I'll leave that to you.
So she's a character that how to explain it? She's a character that like Dana actually comes from way before we were making games.
Okay.
Oh, without going into too many spoilers, what I can describe about her is that she is to Dana what Sam is to Jill.
Okay. So Dana from
so
the first game, if folks don't know. I just want to make sure because we can't assume that people know who these people are.
true.
We know who they are. They are, for people that have played the game, close companions. For you, incredibly close to your heart. But I just want to make sure that folks that might be coming to us from another game at LudoNarraCon have that connection. Yep.
So in the first game, there was Dana. She is your boss in the game. She's very caring about you, and Jill has a not subtle crush on her. Dana is actually a character that we've had for years. She is the mascot of our Spanish blog. She's there in the Twitter
Basically the
profile for the
blood
region.
and energy of Sukeban Games.
Yes.
She's
She
everything
was
for us.
she was always the core of who we wanted to be. She was the embodiment of who we are, of what we thought was cool. Dana is basically an amalgamation of everything we think is cool.
Nice.
As such, she is a character very close to our heart. So when we saw that people were really taking to her, we were like, "Oh man, our kid is making it into the world."
We did something right.
Yes, so she has that sort of thing. In fact, we're actually called Sukeban Games because of her.
Nice.
When we were deciding on a company name, we were thinking, what the hell do we call ourselves? We had to be a cool name, and then Chris was like, okay, think back. We need something that reflects Dana. What was the name of female delinquents again? Sukeban. That's her name.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome.
Oh, anyways, she was the boss in the first game. Nirvana also has a boss. She is to Dana what Sam is to Jill. She is meant to be an opposite, but not a reactive opposite. It's not like Dana is heroic, she is a bastard, something like that.
Yep.
She's the same way that Sam is to Jill, just very different people that if you saw, they're not opposites, they're just different in different edges of the same spectrum, so to speak. So, like Dana, Eris was a character that we had for years, but in less of a spotlight. Whenever we made something with Dana, we needed a foil or someone to play off of her, we'd bring her up. I think she was just Chris made a design for a shirt we wore to a convention once, and when we were thinking about using a foil to Dana, we just recycled that design.
Okay.
So, anyways, Dana is always supposed to be cool. She's like, if she's an ex-wrestler, so in wrestling terms, she's the ace of the company, so to speak.
Yep.
She's supposed to be formidable. She's supposed to be unbeatable. She's supposed to be the ace.
Ancina. Supposed to be Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yeah. Good. That's
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
New Japan.
Iris is supposed to be the opposite. She is clumsy. She is loud. She is someone that if you saw just in practice, she's uncool. But
She's the one with the glasses, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
So I just put a picture up. You
And she
can't
should
see
be
it,
the
but...
profile pic. Exactly.
Yep.
So, but at the same time, she's made to be like, if Dana had one person that she trusts blindly and without a single second thought, it will be her. So she's also made like, she looks like a loser, but there's a reason Dana trusts her, so to speak.
Okay. And then Leon is the one with the big sideburns. Yes. Okay. I just want to make sure that I got the right picture up. So you can't see it, but I put the promotional
Yeah, if you have
picture
the first promotional picture, yes, it's Sam on the right, Leon on the left, and Iris at the bottom. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right. Just want to make sure I had the right one. Cool.
So there's a lot I could talk, but It's one of those cases where I'd rather keep it under wraps, not
Yeah.
because of spoilers, but just to let people judge for themselves.
Yeah,
so to
and
speak.
she's a cat boomer. Can you just give a brief overview on what cat
Yes,
boomers are in the world?
yes. Yeah. Cat boomers are in Glitch City, in the setting of the last game. There's a condition that the air is infested with nanomachines that serve many purposes, from keeping the populace in check to just keeping track of stuff. And one disease that can happen because of this is nanomachine rejection, which is when the body starts acting negatively towards them, like they're a virus. But since they attach to the body, it's basically eating yourself, so to speak. This condition can be treated with a very painful treatment and can also be detected before birth. And when it's detected before birth, the treatment that makes that happen has the side effect of giving people basically protrusions that just happen to look like cat ears in this sense.
Cool.
They're a mutation that just so happens to look like cat ears. That's why characters from the last game, like Stella, have 4 pairs of ears. It's not because one of them is not really a pair of ears. They're just mutation.
Yeah, it's a mutation and a protrusion off the top. Yep.
The thing is that this treatment was very expensive, so very few people were able to afford it, and the rich people were the ones to afford it. And the treatment became popular thanks to some high-profile kids being born. And because of this, the treatment also became a sort of aesthetic thing that many rich families did just for the heck of it. And many times, especially outside of the city, there's a whole generation of people that were born with that because they went through treatment, not because they were weak to nanomachines before birth, but because their families wanted that sort of status sign to them, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
The term cat boomer was originally referring to their parents, to their generation of parents that make their kids go through it. But the term eventually just attached to the kids themselves, to the people with those cat ears. And that's why by the time the game rolls around there, those are the one called cat boomers.
Cat boomers. Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate you filling our audience in on that. If you want more information about cat boomers, you're already on Steam. You can go buy the first game, Valhalla, right now. Hey.
It's all explained there.
Yeah. Yep. It's so good. God damn, it's so good. All right. So there were Ysbryd Games is very, very, very proud and very happy to be the publisher of both Nirvana and Valhalla. And you put together a couple of demos to demonstrate the game. The first one, please make sure I got the order right. The first one was Parka and the second was Olivia?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So the first one was Parka. I just wanted to make sure that I had that right. The first one was Parka and the second one was Olivia. Because basically how the game works, and again, it's your game. Stop me if I'm incorrect in the explanation. I hope I'm not, because I've been talking about it to press and people for about a year now. So I hope I haven't messed this up. But the setting is St. Alicia, which is a kind of a glittering cyberpunk paradise, but you do find out that there's a lot of corruption as it is cyberpunk. In the background, you are a bartender, you are San, as we already talked about. And the 2 demos are introducing you to 2 of the potential patrons that you will encounter and meet in the game. The first one being Parka. So can you tell us a little bit about Parka? And also, if you check out the videos that have been here on the store page, you'll see playthroughs of those 2 demos as well.
All right. So Parka's origin was funny because we needed a character for the first demo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was looking for ideas, Chris just told me, you know all those frustrations you always have that you voice on Twitter about the people's reaction to the game or whatever. Just make a character of that.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty accurate. Yeah. Parka was born out of a not very secret frustration with a lot of things regarding the reception Valhalla had among a very tiny, annoying minority. In the sense that, come on, man, come on. It's like, fuck, dude. Why are you so upset with media portraying what happens in real life? It's
What
like,
you want?
whoa,
You want the media to
shit,
progress, but
we're
also
presenting you
complain.
something.
Come on.
Yeah, it's like, fuck, dude. If you want to see bad things, go watch fucking Barney or whatever the shit you watched when you were 4.
Yeah.
Fucking mind child. I'm sorry, but it does make me a bit upset
No,
when
please,
people
tell us how
start
you
like,
really
you
feel.
know,
Oh, you don't
people
want
just
us to
start
tell you how I
No,
really
no,
feel.
I really don't want to record that. No, but we can have a
it's-
conversation
no,
about that
it's-
later. I do want to hear it, but it's the
No, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Let's say, for example, don't know, man. In the first game, he's the first client, and he's very saucy, right? He's
Mhm.
problematic,
Yep.
as many people will call it. But his actions are never really approved by anyone, and he opens up on why he's like that, which
yeah.
I mean doesn't justify, but it does, put a human face to what many people just uh, dismiss as someone who is really not worth even interacting with.
Mhm.
Because
Um,
Jill
um,
doesn't outright tell him to fuck off and get out of the bar, people suddenly say that we are approving of his actions. Because Jill doesn't explicitly throw out a patron on her job.
She has to pay
guys,
rent.
so yeah, it's that kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
very frustrating because even though we do a good job in that sense, like, yeah, sure, we can present problematic content, but there is also a context to it. But people just see it one way and they don't change their minds because, I don't know, they saw posting on Twitter or whatever, and I don't know, they
Yeah, I
had
get
an
it.
idea about us.
Mhm.
It's never going to change. It doesn't keep me away at night, like, at all, because I mean the game was wildly successful, and people like that are just a mere blip in my radar that sometimes show up and I ignore completely.
So how did that frustration
Uh,
give rise to Parka being the first character?
I'm not
yeah,
going
it's
to
exactly
go
how
to
people
specifics. I'm not going to go to very specifics, but there's a reason that one of the things that Parka expresses frustration about is that people call her a pedophile without context, basically.
Okay. All right.
well,
Those
you
that
should
have
elaborate on that. That's a pretty heavy statement.
people that have played Valhalla will know what that's about,
Mhm.
and I'm going to leave that as a teaser for people to actually play Valhalla if they haven't.
I think that's a very good idea.
But basically, if you played Valhalla and then you play the Parka demo, and then you are vaguely aware of the negative reception that Valhalla has received, then it becomes very obvious that Parka is just a reflection of what we've have gone through and all the frustrations we have, both as creators and seeing the reception of what
I
we've
wouldn't
made.
call it just a reflection. I mean, she's a fully fledged character. The idea just was born from
Yeah.
that frustration.
Yeah,
That was going to be my next
she's a
question.
full she's a full character, but where she comes from reflects where we came from.
Yeah.
It's like if she was a person it's just a big coincidence that what she went through is the same things that we have gone through, but she's a completely different person. We're not just inserting ourselves into the story.
Of course. Yep. Every character is born from a seed. Almost every seed comes from something that the creator has gone through in real life or has some sort of relationship with. Yeah.
We should probably get into the specifics about her. Like,
Oh yeah,
she's
I want to know more about her and how she may have.
yeah,
changed in
she's a comic. She's a comic writer. She writes about saucy subjects, and people tend to take it in the wrong way. And she's very frustrated about it. It's problematic. You better add an echo every time I say problematic. So yeah, she's a comic writer. She goes through all of this, whenever she releases something new, it's like, oh man, I have this really nice fan base that appreciates what I do, but there is this very little segment of people that just annoys the fuck out of me, man, and that makes me super mad. Give me alcohol, please.
I can kind of see where you're coming from now, I understand that you're kind of, because it's born from your frustrations. When you're saying things like problematic, it's with a little bit of sarcasm, but these are or can be interpreted to be problematic by certain types of people. And I think you both do a very good job with your writing. And what I know behind the scenes and having played through all of Valhalla a couple of times, once on stream for the Ysbryd Games audience, and a couple of times on my own just to see some of the other stuff, is what actually, and I understand people, you're writing problematic characters, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you as creators buy into that problematic thing, because you're presenting the context as well. And I can absolutely see how that's frustrating, but you do a really good job separating the presentation from who you actually are as people and creators.
It's actually one of the frustrations that Parka expresses during the game. The fact that she can't write about something, because then it suddenly means that she's approving of it. That right. She can't make anything vaguely problematic or disagreeable or whatever, even if it's to prove a point, even if it's something that within the context of the game is treated as something that shouldn't be approved of or shouldn't be treated immediately as something good, even if it has that context. Just the fact that she's putting that out there is just an admission that she's X or Y. For example, I've seen people not accuse me directly, because thank God, they've never approached me, for example, directly on Twitter, but the comments they make tend to be targeted towards the writer, the guy, emphasis on guy that made this game.
Yes.
For example, Donovan. People saying that the guy that wrote this game is a misogynist and whatever, because I made Donovan. Even if Donovan if never approved of, and Jill expresses disdain that she just can't let out because she is trying to make rent.
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot of that of Parka's demo frustration comes precisely from that sort of place where you can't talk about something because people immediately assume you are part of it, unless you explicitly and without any semblance of the word escapes me.
I think no.
Without any.
You can't equivocate.
Exactly, yeah. where people, unless you bash it, unless you make a point, like a brick to the face that thing you're talking about is bad, people assume you are just advocating through it about it or something.
But that said, all that said, this is not to obviously diminish the very, valid arguments that can be made about
Exactly.
problematic media. It's like obviously there is feedback to be had. There is criticism to write about pretty much anything. There are many things that we enjoy that might not be the best, um, best representation of a larger issue, and therefore that sloppiness in the writing can bleed somehow into the viewers or into the players. Media affects everyone, right?
It does.
In one way or the other. So we have to be very careful. We have a responsibility as creators to steer things in the right direction, but by the same token, never ignore the shitty stuff.
Yep.
We have to do it, but you have to do it right. And even then, there is always that risk. I'm just gonna give one small example. I'm not gonna go too much into it, but there is this movie called American History X, which is obviously a super anti-white supremacist story. The neo-Nazis are presented as these as very dangerous comebacks that make things worse for pretty much everyone involved. But this message doesn't really come through to actual neo-Nazis. They see this movie and they think, "Wow, Edward Norton is freaking badass, huh? Look at that dude. He's just beating up everyone." And then they present these parties full of white supremacists, just doing their stuff. And naturally, people who agree with them will just think the movie is awesome, even though the movie is actually against their ideology.
Yeah.
So even in things that are done well, there's still this danger that you're being misrepresented.
Fight Club problem.
And that's honestly just a result of being a creator. You have to roll with the punches.
You have to roll with the punches, and that's part of the it's unfortunately one of the dangers to be a creator, especially when you're trying to do something with. It's very easy to look at Valhalla and Nirvana and just be like, "Oh, look, hot anime people and bartending and booze, yay! I'm thirsty. I want a drink." It's easy to look at the games like that, but if you scratch the surface even a little bit, there's so much subtlety and nuance in everything that you two have done that it's really quite remarkable. So I think you were going to talk a little bit more about Parka and more about. I understand that the original kernel was born from that frustration with some of that feedback, and it obviously affected you both. But
I should stress here that those frustrations are personal in a sense.
Yep.
That professionally speaking, like if I had to put my company hat, my game developer hat, every criticism, even those are valid. I try to see the feedback in those.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And many of the improvements we've made are not trying to appeal to those people, but seeing where they came from. We might not appease them, but their feedback was just as valuable.
Mm-hmm.
However, when a lot of that feedback is worded in a very personal way, when they are wording things in a way that accuse us, I was gonna say me, but in the end it's us, accuse us of being X or Y, that's when the frustration starts piling up. And Parka is a reflection of that side of things. That even if those criticisms are right, there's a personal side that cannot be disconnected fully from that, and that one doesn't have to just take the criticism as a person directly just because it's criticism and it will be unprofessional to not do it. This is this and that is that.
Again, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Parka is a freaking interesting person, to say the least. Like,
Yeah.
her life is just as colorful as the rest.
I really like her design.
And this is something I can't really stress enough. The fact that whatever we say here is just the tip of the iceberg. We say a lot of shit here. We're delivering a bunch of detail about these characters that of a game that is not even out yet. And I don't know. I get the feel that in any other case, you think we will be talking about things that are already out there, that are already being analyzed. But this is us just teasing with just a bit, right? We're just teasing just a bit of a larger than life cast of characters. Man, people will love this. I can feel it. I can feel it.
Because you've already put a lot of thought into the world, and some of the best stuff that's out there, some of the best content, some of the best media that's out there are things with stories that the audience will never see, but the creator knows. It's the base. You probably have details about these characters that will never be in the game, but help to write these full and rich and wonderful people.
That actually reminds me of this one. I can't remember. It was a special documentary, something like that. It was talking about one of the guest actors that was in Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which one, but he was on a scene with Kramer,
mm-hmm.
and he noticed that the actor, I forget his name, he was doing some weird motions
mm-hmm.
during the scene that seemed random. And when he asked him after the scene was shot what he was doing in the back then, he said that he thought during that moment that Kramer just let out a fart and was just trying to disperse it so that nobody smelled it.
That's amazing.
Never. It's something that's not explicit in the scene, but the actor had the character in mind so much that he just added that because it was natural for him at that moment to do that.
Yep. That's just what naturally and organically occurred. That's awesome. That's very cool. So there's one more character I want to talk about. It's the other demo. The other person that we meet is Olivia.
I love her. I love her so much.
I don't think there's been a character that I've asked about where you're not like, I love them. I love them to death.
Oh, dude, she's so cool. We can't talk about a lot about her.
Well, that's okay because we're running out of time.
So, so to keep things a bit simple on who she is, mostly for where she came from. When we make characters, we try to make them reflections of the world they're in. A lot of the characters are made specifically to let us explore a side of the world. Like you're having a character from this side from this section of the world that's visiting, and that lets you see what happens there and their story and their involvement with that and how that might affect you or might affect someone else. So of course we have this island, we have this place that makes a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to talk about the people that make the money. But rather than going for someone straight at the top, we're talking about someone that's like, let's say, someone that's not at the top. Yeah, exactly. It's a cog in the machine, but wants to be the machine, even if the system is basically rigged against them.
Yep.
Olivia is a middle manager in a company, which means that she's in a position of power, but it's not the kind of power that she really wants. And the game is rigged so that she mentions it in the demo. She can't go further because the people at the top like being at the top and they have the means to stay there.
Yep.
But she's still trying because sunk cost fallacy. She can't just stop trying to be at the top.
And she sacrificed so much to get there that it's simply not an option to just quit. You know, she's going through a really rough patch at work with a bunch of situations that the game will talk about eventually. She's way too knee deep into this situation. She changed so much about her life just to be able to fit, just to be able to advance in this dog world of hers. That is a cyberpunk mega corporation. She actually she was pretty much a nerd. And once she got out of school and began working, she was like, man, I'm fucking broke and I need to do something about this. She was like, well, I see that pretty much everyone above me is freaking hot. Maybe I should become hot as well. Maybe we get a chance. So that pretty much begins a chain of unfortunate events that lead her to the situation she's in when the game when the game takes place.
That's a detail that you actually notice in the demo, because the first thing that she does is that she went to the bar specifically because it's the shot location for a movie she liked.
Yep.
So we're not specifically calling her a film nerd or whatever, but it's something that inevitably shows about her character just in a little interaction, just in why she went to the bar in the first place.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That actually, and her character actually shows why we changed the setting of the game, because if we were still in Valhalla, in Glitch City, the biggest window into the powerful side of things is Stella, and Stella is basically the daughter of the owner of a big company.
Mm-hmm.
because the gap between classes is so big, there's no in between. You are either at the bottom or at the top. However, by changing the setting to a richer setting, so to speak, that's where
Can finally have the middle class.
Yeah.
Actually have the middle class. We can actually have the people that are striving for the top, but are not in the bottom either. We actually that throws back to something that we mentioned in the other interview, where I was mentioning that a big experience being on the outside was talking to people from other countries and noticing that what I imagined as a middle class upbringing
Mm-hmm.
in every other country in America or whatever was actually a poor people upbringing. Like, I remember one time I was talking about how trading cards like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, when that boom started,
Mm-hmm.
they were basically rich kid toys because the originals could only be afforded by the kids
Mm-hmm.
whose parents had a higher income and stuff, and everyone else, literally 90% of everyone else, had to make do with the machine translated bootleg ones, which I loved for the wrong reasons. And that sort of reflects here, where in Glitch City you are either at the bottom or at the top, but the setting of Nirvana actually lets us explore more in between in that sort of societal chain, so to speak.
That's really cool. That's amazing. So, how about before we wrap this up? I know you can't reveal any other characters or anything like that, but something that you did say in the other interview that I find very very exciting is there's going to be more. It's going to be more gender balanced. There's more hot dudes. Is pretty much what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
basically.
More hot dudes. Good. Excellent. Because
So
the character design is absolutely fantastic. That's why I have my gamer water here.
Yeah, dude.
yeah,
we all
because-
need that damn gamer water.
Yeah, we do. Got to stay hydrated for the games.
The
So-
big gaming.
so you want to know if we can reveal anything about any other guys?
No, I just want to know that there's going to be other hot guys in it. That was it.
Oh,
Is-
oh,
are you
yeah,
gonna have hot
absolutely.
guys? Great.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Good. One of the questions that I'm asked the most in interviews, and I encourage you to not answer this question, is are we going to see characters from Valhalla in Nirvana? Okay, well that's all the time. That's all the time we have. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate all of your time. Fernando and Chris, this has been absolutely fantastic. As we said in the other interview, this is like the first time that me working for Ysbryd, for the publisher, and you as the developers to Nirvana have actually gotten to sit down and like just shoot the shit. And it was really, really cool getting to know you. Thank you so much for talking so passionately about your games. Thank you very much for being here at LudoNarraCon. You folks out there at LudoNarraCon, thank you for your time and your attention. Please wishlist the ever-living crap out of this game. It is going to be absolutely fantastic. Do you have any closing remarks for the fine people out there, Fernando and Chris?
Inside.
Good. Where can they find you on the internet if they want to? We're gonna find, aside from being on the
you can
Steam
follow
page
me on Twitter at Kidding51. I don't post a lot,
You should
but
spell
when I
that.
do, it's always something cool.
You should spell that. I'm not kidding. You should
If-
spell out your Twitter handle.
Chris.
You mean just spell it out loud?
Yeah, like
damn.
Yes. Nobody's got what was key to
That- Well, then now you're going to out me as someone who never learned how to read or write. Damn.
Well, for somebody that helped
Let-
to make a narrative game,
let me
you've done
make the
very well.
attempt.
You've done very well for yourself.
No, I just recognize the logos.
I just make Fernando do it.
So anyway, you can follow me on Kirin51 on Twitter. That's K. Oh man, I don't know how to pronounce is it E or A?
I
I
think it's
don't
A.
know, man. Just write it up somewhere, man. I suck at spelling in English. All right.
Should be
I
somewhere.
can barely
It should be
That
speak.
would
so-
be, no, I got it. It's fine. I'll do it, you lazy ass.
I can barely speak,
that's
man.
Kiririn51. That's at KIRIRIN51. Fernando? Where
Should
can people
follow
find you?
the Sukeban Games Twitter instead of me, because my Twitter is very questionable. And if you want anything game related, you're getting it in the Sukeban Games Twitter anyways.
I'd highly recommend that.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Cool. My name is Jacob Burgess. You can follow Ysbryd Games at Ysbryd Games on Twitter. Yeah, this has been absolutely fantastic, gentlemen. Anything else that you'd like to say before we turn everything off?
Oh, I mean, pretty good.
right.
Thank you for having us, and I'm gonna go ahead and strangle a bear with my bare hands.
Absolutely. And at the end of the last interview, I said I was going to get a snack, and you told me to get a hot dog. So I did.
Nice. Did she talk?
Yeah. All right, everybody. This has been an interview with Fernando and Chris of Sukeban Games talking about the characters for Nirvana. Wishlist it. Follow them on Twitter, or don't if you can't spell it. Thank you very much for being here. I've been Jacob Burgess. This has been Fernando and Chris. This is Nirvana. Thank you and good night, or good day, or I don't know what time it is. Bye.